All right, let's try this again. Hopefully everything's working now. So we just like we did with the regular small sheet of paper, we've got to start figuring out like our bounding boxes. So when we look at this green sheet of paper, what we're ultimately going to do with this green sheet of paper is we're going to draw a title block that comes around the inside. And this here, so just take a couple notes on this stuff because you're not ready to draw it yet. But this title block is going to be 1/2 of an inch. So if you look at it from the bottom, it's 1/2 plus another 1/2. Okay, so ultimately off the bottom, we're going to lose 1 inch. We're going to lose 1/2 inch off the top. We're going to lose 1/2 inch off of each side. Okay, so what ends up happening is our effective drawing area ends up being 10.5 inch or 17 inches wide, right? Because we lost 1/2 inch. We lost 1/2 inch, so we're losing an inch total. So we're subtracting an inch off of this. And then we have 12 inches from top to bottom. We're losing an inch off the bottom, which takes us down to 11. And then we're losing another 1/2 inch off the top, which is taking us down to this 10.5. Okay, so we're not gonna worry about that too much because we're going to do the same process that we did before where we drew our bounding boxes. I just wanted to show you that this is ultimately where the title block is going to go. So when you have this green sheet, you're going to have a really nice border that goes in, 1/2 inch in all the way around, and then you're going to have a secondary line across the bottom. All right, so that's the first thing, just to kind of tell you where we're heading with this. So our first step is we know how big our drawing area is. Our maximum drawing area is 17 by 10.5. So our next step is to start thinking about our actual drawings. So if we want to think about our grid view, so this is the top. Right, that's our Chipboard Vocab model. That's our 2D. That's this view that you guys have done, right? You guys did this on a. You guys like moved your pieces of cut paper and you took photos. That's this view, okay? So now what we have to start figuring out is this is going to be the first project that we're going to be applying a scale. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to be cutting this thing in half, okay? So what we're going to be using as a scale is going to be 1/2 inch equals 1 inch. Okay, so we're literally reducing everything down by 50%. Okay, so can anybody tell me how big this thing was in real life? How big was this grid, this base in real life? Not cutting dimensions down. Does anybody recall that? I can't see the chat, so let me come over here and see if I can. Nick, what'd you say? Oh, it's doing the Mickey Mouse thing again, Nick. It's doing the Mickey Mouse thing. Anybody else got that one? Anybody? How big was our base? 10 by 10. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go 10 inches by 10 inches. And guys, if you can't see something on my screen, you guys got to tell me. I can't tell how big the writing is, so work with me. Nick, you're back. I think you said 10 by 10. So yeah, we've got 10 inches wide by 10 inches tall. And then what we're going to start doing is we're going to start looking at what our front view looks like. Okay, so again, if you guys remember back to my old tissue box, we had, this top view, and then we're going to roll it down to get our front view. Okay, so this is going to be the same thing that happens with your Chipboard Vocab. we're going to need to draw the front view. Now, well, fortunately or unfortunately, what's crazy is that all of ours are going to be different. So Danny's is going to be different than Ashley's. Ashley's is going to be different than Muhammad's, right? So everybody's going to have their own variables for this. There is going to be one constant, okay? So the constant's going to be, remember these, I'm going to do this in green, but remember, actually I'm going to do it in red. These projection lines, right? If we remember these really, really light projection lines, the width of our front view is still going to maintain that 10-inch width. Okay, our width is going to maintain that 10-inch, the 10 inches that this is. Okay, now this is where the variable is, and I can't give you guys an answer. So mine might look like this. Whatever, might be something like that. Okay. So that's the front view of my chipboard vocab. I'm looking at it dead on. This is the base. That bottom line is the base that everything's getting applied to. Now, what I don't know is how tall yours are. But I'm just going to throw a number on here for mine. And I'm going to say that mine was the maximum height that I recommended of 6 inches tall. Okay, that's the absolute tallest that I would say would be safe to build. Your guys, I don't know what yours is. So I'm going to put a question mark here, because I really don't know what yours is. All right. Now, if we come back to my tissue box again, we've got a front view, and now we roll it out to get a side view. Okay. So we're trying to now get to what that view is. And just like with every other drafting we do, we use projection lines. Projection lines come over. Projection lines come over. And another constant is we know how wide this is. And we're going to pull that from here, because remember, this dimension is the same as that dimension. Okay? So I know that this is going to be 10 inches. All right? Now, again, what mine looks like from the side might be something like that. Who knows? Okay? I'm not really going to worry myself too much, but maybe that's what mine looks like from the side. Okay? Now, obviously, projection lines eventually go away, so I'm just going to lighten mine up. And the piece of information that's missing over here, obviously, is going to be the height. And again, this is just going to be the same height as this. So mine's going to be 6 inches, and yours is going to be question mark. Okay? Now, I've got an issue. In the past, we've held this to a 1-inch gap, and we've held this to a 1-inch gap. So what I want to do is, I'm just going to real quickly, I'm going to use green for the 1 inch, and I'm just going to write 1 inch, and I'm going to write 1 inch. Okay? Now, what might be a problem with keeping these at real true scale? What's a problem with this? Can anybody identify a problem? You got it, right? Because if I add up 10 plus 10 plus 1, I've got 21. My piece of paper is only 17 inches wide. So we can't fit this. And that's why we're going to go to this 1/2 inch equals 1 inch. So what we're going to do is we got to break a little math into this, okay? Every dimension, we're going to split in half, okay? The only thing I want to tell you guys is that we're going to maintain this 1 inch gap. That's going to stay consistent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use green and I'm going to split all these dimensions in half. I'm going to keep the 1 inch. Okay, and then we're going to come up the other direction and we're going to split this. So we've got 5. We've got 1. We're maintaining that 1. And then in my case, I'm splitting 6 inches down the 3. Again, I don't know what your dimensions are going to be. Okay. And then the last thing I need to do is I need to add this. So what I'm basically doing is, we're looking at all of these as little bounding boxes, right? And we're just trying to figure out a height, and a width. A height and a width. A height and a width, okay? And of course, this is going to be 5 inches as well. So now I've established I've got 5 plus 1 plus 5. I'm going to be 11 inches wide. Okay, and I'm going to circle that. And then I'm going to come up this side here. I'm going to be 5 plus 1 plus 3. In my case, it's going to be 9. In your case, it's going to be question mark. Okay? Again, only because I don't know how tall each of yours is. Okay? So just remember that you're dealing with that variable that I'm not dealing with. Okay? So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So there we go. We've got 9 by 11, or 11 by 9. So after all of that, what I've basically concluded to, is I know my bounding box. So we did all of this work to literally find 11 by 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take note. Okay, so my bounding box now is 11 inches by 9 inches wide. Okay, now do me a favor, guys. If any of this is helpful for you, pull your phone out real quick and just take a picture of that, just so that you can have a capture of that. Because I'm getting ready to erase up this section here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that. Good? Okay, so we did all this math to figure out essentially that. And the information that's still important is right here. My bounding box was 11 inches by 9 inches. So if I go back to the thought of that green sheet of paper, and that green sheet of paper has a border, and that border has a title block. Okay, I'm at this stage. And what I've got to do is I've got to center my 11 inch by 9 inch box in the middle of my drawing area. And my drawing area is identified from this corner to this corner, and this corner to that corner. So if you guys can remember back to when we did this before, and you guys can refer back to that old drawing, what I've got to do next is I've got to center this bounding box on my X. Okay, so essentially what I would do is I take this 11, split it in half. I'm going to come over 5.5 inches, over 5.5 inches. I'm going to take my 9 inch dimension, split that in half. I'm going to come down 4.5, and I'm going to come down 4.5. And then that'll give me my bounding box. Okay, so what I know from that point is my top view. I have a different color marker. I could erase out, once I get there, I'm going to erase out all of this red. I'm going to draw in my top view. I'm going to draw on my front view, and I'm going to draw on my side view. Okay? So at this point, what you guys should be working out mathematically is taking your 3D models and starting to try to calculate what your bounding boxes are. And the way that I do that again is just the way I did on that other, when I had the other screen up. I just do like a real quick sketch of what it's going to look like, and I start throwing some dimensions on there. So what I'm going to give you guys time today to do, hold on, let me flip back to my camera here real quick. Okay, so what I'm going to give you guys time today to do is to start looking at your 3D chipboard model, which I think most of you guys have that first one done. I know not everybody does, but I think most of you guys have that first one done. And starting to look at that thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up, let me pull up SketchUp real quick. Let me just pull this up. And let me go to my screen real quick. Bear with me for just a second here. And I'm just going to do a new one real quick. Okay, I'm not going to redo this whole thing. I'm just going to go 10 inch, 10 inch. And then I'm going to extrude this up. Just give this a little thickness like we did. Get rid of Karen. Highlight this. Make it a group. Okay, normally you guys would have the grid on there. I'm not really going to worry too much about this being nearly perfect. I'm literally just doing this for demonstration purposes. Your guys' are going to look absolutely phenomenal, right? You guys have little boxes and big boxes and whatever you guys have, right? So I'm just going to pull these up at different. Okay, there we go. There's my beautiful chipboard model. Okay. It's obviously not right because I'm not using all the objects that you're supposed to be using. But what you can do is you can start using SketchUp to help you sketch out your views. And this is a setting that I want you guys to be very aware of. It's going to take me a second to click and find it because it's in a different spot on SketchUp online. But there's this really neat little tool in here, and I think it's under, might just be under views.
On the play thing.
On what?
So like, you know, like the thing directors go like this with. It's like the play button or whatever that's called. I was messing around with it on SketchUp, and it took me like 10 minutes to find it. But
I know exactly what. Yeah. What is that? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. When they say cut, yes, exactly. Whatever that thing's called. Anybody in your school, on your media or whatever you call that theater? Anybody know what that thing's called? But yeah, Nick's got it. It's that thing. So there's two different ways to view in SketchUp. You can either do perspective or you can do what they call parallel projection. So if you're trying to get like a shortcut to help you understand what your top view is, use the parallel projection, and then there's a button here that says top. So literally this will give you a perfect top-down view, and that's essentially that's actually not essentially, that is exactly your top view of your chipboard vocab. Now, if I take this, if you look at this, right? So I'm gonna use my tissue box again, my magical tissue box, right? So that right there is this button right here. And then this is this button. This is this button. This is the back, right? Does that make sense, guys? So these buttons will help you orient which side you're looking at, okay? So what I'm looking at right now is top. I want to click on this. Boom, I have a front view. So now I know what my front view looks like. Go back to top, go back to front, go back to top, go to right side. Okay, so I can flip. These are your 3 buttons that you're really going to be utilizing. This one, which is your right side view, your top view, and your front view. Okay, and so you get to that, obviously, thank you again, Nick. It's that little thing, cut, whatever you want to call it. And then you got these, this button first to turn it to parallel. Because if you keep it on perspective, things that are taller will look like they're not in line. Does that make sense, right? They're kind of outside of the view, so you want to make sure that you go to parallel. Top, parallel is selected now, so we can go front, and then we can go side. So that will actually really, really help you guys cheat. That's the word I'm looking for. That button, these buttons will help you guys cheat to generate your 2-dimensional views. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody thus far? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. I was recording my screen to have this so I can share this with you guys later.